Le Mojo Show vient joindre nous aujourd'hui grâce à support Cap Lamandou l'hôtel qui établi dans ville Jacmel ak Villa Théodore qui chita dans mi-temps Port-au-Prince dans quartier Debussy. Si ou à Jacmel, ou soit au Port-au-Prince pour vacances, ou soit pour business, et puis vous voulez descendre dans l'hôtel, côté ou à l'aise qu'on met Blaise, seul choix c'est Cap Lamandou dans Jacmel ak Villa Théodore dans Debussy. Ou ka contacter yo directement sur site web yo caplamandou.com ou soit villatheodore.com. Les Mojo Show voulait remercier John Laguerre qui c'est un supporter fidèle show. John Laguerre, c'est un professionnel qui peut répondre à tous besoins financiers nous, tant que assurance santé et assurance la vie. Pas quitter ces les mal arrivés pour nous dire si nous te connaît. Contactez John Laguerre dans 347 204 58 61. 347 204 58 61. Bonsoir Mona Lisa.
Bonsoir Johnny. Mon frère.
Ah bah même ça.
J'étais pour la 15. Pas passer misère, on a passé dans Brooklyn.
Bon, bah c'est plus misère, c'est ça je l'ai dit.
On fait des optants, on pas passer misère dans le Brooklyn, on a passé.
Ah, vous voulez dire on a passé plus misère optants?
Non, pas du tout mon cher. En tout cas, c'était me profiter le temps pour me remercier dans le combat nous dans Brooklyn. Et je l'ai comme ça m'a parlé à moi mon Haïti qu'on chante qui un combat et qui un combat et puis non en tout cas n'a pour qui gens dans la mesure du possible nous capables de gérer les choses, gérer les affaires et notre moment à vivre là c'est un moment très crucial côté que we need all hands on deck. It's no longer a joke. And since 2015, it's been on. I mean, even prior to that, but 2015, that's when we really got the news that we really need to try to prevent what's going on now. And of course, you and I knew the late Jean-Robert Lafortune, qui était connecté avec Gerline Joseph. Et depuis lors, nous nous engagés dans la bataille ça ensemble. Côté que frère nous action ça est sorti là-bas dans frontière là et Gerline a fait placement pour eux l'équipe Brooklyn ba nous n'a géré et dans la mesure du possible avec des organisations qui existaient dans la communauté à nous essayer d'adresser besoins eux selon capacité nous mais ça va arriver dans un point là Johnny comme on connaît là ils font gros explosion le monde entier a regardé ça qui a passé là. Et moi-même, je dis à me quitter le ballon, on me dit, bon, je vais être pour nous. Alors, je vais être pour tout, Johnny. Je vais être pour. Alors, qu'est-ce qu'on fait?
Qu'est-ce qu'on fait? C'est ça. Bon, n'a dit jouet là dans pied communauté, hein, malgré que son jouet qui serré et difficile. Et me fait un échange avec un ami et sur Facebook récemment qui t'a dit. Et bon, plusieurs amis en fait qui dit et qui sa diaspora a fait. Et m'était essayé d'expliquer que premièrement, cette diaspora a toujours paré pour l'hypothèque contribution par même m'était voulu faire les amis remarquer que diaspora les fatigué même gens tout et nous vivons des fois alors pas dans ton bagage c'est vrai que ou pas vivre les mêmes gens avec monde qui en haïtien. Mais là, prend nouvelle de ça qui a passé et nous vivons stress surtout, nous partager douleur et donc diaspora essoufflé, fatigué, mais nous pas camper bataille là. Mais me développer et faire remarquer là parce que me dit dans fin me dit mon que et difficile et c'est ensemble que c'est monde qui en dedans pays que c'est monde qui dehors qui pour faire la solidarité ensemble pour nous joindre une sortie à ça que pays nous vivre et à ça que un pile frère nous qui atterri pas ici t'a vivre aujourd'hui. Donc bagay yo en pile et yo pile sous pile.
You know what? It's the 1980s all over again. Back on sous la de période ça. La seule différence, c'est que dans le journée, je dis, il y a un lueur d'espoir pour qui ça me dit ça, c'est parce que lors les années 80, 80, 81, toute l'époque, ça, moi-même, moi, rentré des teenagers ici, nous rappelons pas bien aussi tant d'organisations que nous gagnons dans la journée jeudi. On a avec Wilson Désir, un office côté que moi-même, j'étais un volontaire tout le temps dans la high school. OK? Et t'es bien quelques, bon, nous sommes capables de dire HCC là, tout. Le programme n'est pas aussi en vogue. Hope t'es là, oui, c'est vrai, mais funding était très limité. Et c'était des époques où tout le monde a pris l'amour, et c'était l'époque où on est droit après les gens, both people. Et dans une journée, il y a une autre stratégie, côté que passer par le Brésil, il y a le Brésil, il y a le Chili, voyage normal, il pas passer par la mer encore, mais
ouais.
Quand même, et dans une journée, nous sommes capables de dire, c'est ma quote selon membre de l'organisation Fuji qui a vécu au Brésil, situation n'est pas du tout facile pour eux. Quoique j'ai affaire avec des universitaires, oui, à l'école, il y a une belle école, il y a fait étudier là-bas, c'est parents qui en Haïti qui supportent eux. Mais ce n'est pas tout le bagage propice pour pas envoyer l'argent pour eux. Voilà pourquoi nous créons un programme de scholarship pour nous qui j'aime pas supporter ces gens. Parce qu'il y a de bonnes intentions, ils quittent le pays, il n'y a pas d'opportunité, mais quand même, il y a le vouloir, il y a la bonne volonté que fait ça bien, ça bon. Et c'est ça que fait me camper de côté. Mais semaine ça, moi, de recevoir quelques appels de la part de jeunes filles. Côté que il y a des amis, familles qui sont dans la frontière là, qui quittent derrière dans le Brésil, eh bien, il y a besoin de monde, peut-être qu'il t'a aller à la rencontre de monde qui explorer. Personne autre que moi, bon, les moyens de faire bon, nous amis, nous avons tel monde qui est dans la frontière là, qui sont café pour eux, qui ça, ou bien des élus au Colombie avec eux, qui ça qui peut faire pour monde ça. Parce que lorsque vous regardez bagaille atroce, situation atroce à côté que dans la journée, je dis, je ne jamais imaginer nous sommes capables de voir ça, nous sommes là, mais tout, quand même c'est la vérité, c'est la réalité que nous vivons. Ouais, et Johnny, the struggle is real, let me put it to you this way. Et nous toujours essayer d'éviter pour ne pas venir monter sur une émission pour me parler de the nitty-gritty, the work that I'm doing in the community with the people. But Johnny, the struggle is real. Travail là, c'est bataille là, il dur, il très dur. J'ai connu des jours malheureux, des jours pénibles. Côté que je chita parfois, m'a prié et m'a dit, God, what am I doing here? What can I do? How can I make a difference? Parce que le peu que j'ai, c'est ce que je partage avec ces gens. Vous comprenez ça? Et m'a dit tête moi, l'homme recevait un coup de fil. Docteur Ferrari, quand on est là, par exemple, j'ai dans la journée, non? Et nos petits gens peuvent sortir dans la rue, nous pas pour ice pour nous. Ou qu'à venir pour ton petit bagage pour nous. C'est pour moi quand même cap marcher clé, on est à droite, on est à gauche, mais quand même, ou carré l'on agence parfois, et puis je dis à l'office la ferme, mais pas rien qui peut, ou après les téléphones à sonner, surtout pendant la période pandémique, ça. Et tu vois, bagage ont changé, bagage ont très difficile. Et pendant cette semaine, ça, je suis capable de donner un groupe WhatsApp que je crée pour ces réfugiés. Et dans le moment où je parle avant, là, j'ai une vingtaine sous chat groupe ça. Je ne vais pas citer non, je ne vais pas paraître, mais je vais monter figure ni exposer business sur deux, mais la vie n'est pas facile du tout pour eux. Et nous sommes capables de dire l'arrivée de nos invités, côté que nous pourrons rentrer et dans ça, drop little Haiti qui a fait. Et pour qu'on voulait bailler des informations et trop sur ça, comme nous dit, nous avons invité nous. Mais quand même, et faut me porter des mots de remerciement, spécialement à vous-même qui, dans mes moments de tristesse profonde, de comprendre côté que dit Johnny n'est pas capable encore, but you always respond to those calls. Parce que l'homme besoin de lash out. I'm sorry, I have to apologize to you publicly. Je ne vais pas continuer de faire quelque chose qui paraît dans le sentiment, mais quand même, we're not just co-host on the Mojo, but you're a great friend. You've been a great friend. Non, c'est un dernier point soulé. You've been a punching bag. And it's thanks for being a friend. I just had to tell you this publicly. And I like the fact that sometimes I come with a request. C'est comme si m'dadou son l'autre m'a passe comme si vous êtes avec. Et puis non mais c'est mais quand même d'une manière ou d'une autre
C'est façon pour créer. C'est sur le communautaire, c'est sur l'eau, du coup, c'est sur le communautaire.
Voilà. Eh bien, ouais, si Gerline était là avec moi pour dire, matin, on parlait avec Gerline, nous font temps à parler, hier soir, we had a meltdown session. Because Johnny Bamzo, d'une manière ou d'une autre, ouais, genre de travail, ça l'a fait, bon côté le rivé, il a attaqué mentalement.
Oui,
parce que nous sommes humains, on est humains.
Bien sûr.
Et surtout moi-même qui, c'est pas seulement en dans Brooklyn m'a fonctionné, ouais, moi étant m'a dit sur toute la surface de la terre, but somehow it's like I feel like the work is rather global than local.
That's right.
Ouais, côté que nous gagnons des membres qui même en Afrique, ouais, qui à Genève, qui dans différents pays dans le monde là, et puis le regarde en photo, il regarde des photos dans les réseaux sociaux, comprendre c'est quelques femmes riches, mais Johnny. Can you tell me what it is?
Moi-même, à preuve du contraire, malgré que je ne connais pas ça, même pas c'est considéré comme l'autre côté, on prend pause parce que les mots m'offrent un pile, mais on ne pas oublier que et je l'ai là avec nous comme col pas bon et nous pas Kimbel trop longtemps et nous pas trop la semaine dernière là et n'a retourné pour nous dire une bonne fête. Et il n'est pas jamais trop tard pour nous redire une bonne fête encore. Nous espérons qu'en dépit de la situation pays et physiquement, Jean et Jelin, que vous passez un bon anniversaire. Et dans le Mojo encore, on a dit un joyeux anniversaire. Et nous espérons que moi, ça va continuer moi fête. Comment est Jelin? Bonsoir.
Bonsoir Johnny, bonsoir Dr. Ferrari. Bon, c'est un plaisir pour nous retrouver aujourd'hui. Et quelques heures, je s'attendais. Dimanche, nous tape là, mais Dr. Ferrari a choisi autrement. Mais c'est de choisi autrement. Et fait que je ne suis pas capable là. Oui, nous avons passé un moment de fête qui est extraordinaire parce que nous avons choisi comme ça. Et comme dit que nous avons eu un accident le samedi avant. Je n'ai pas accepté pour moi l'anniversaire de un accident qui était aussi grave. Donc, j'ai décidé de renverser mal là par bien. Et ça fait que j'ai choisi à l'ensuite, malgré mes soudés qui, avec Fuji, j'ai choisi à l'époque support moi, le monde qui était plus nécessité. Donc, je dit, Dr. Ferrari, merci pour genre de surprise, ça Fuji était bon. Je dit, Mojo, merci, Johnny. Merci parce que je sais que c'était un bon monde qui n'a pas complot. Mais de toute façon, nous venons aujourd'hui là pour nous parler de l'actualité en Haïti. En fait, je me rappelle que depuis près de 1 mois, 2 mois, depuis le commencement juin jusqu'à aujourd'hui, à raté gaz dans le pays qui n'a pas jamais cessé, toujours dans toute pompe, toujours ces gros mecs qui gagnent pour les gens capables de joindre soit gasoline ou bien diesel. Et en pile monde. Alors, c'est gros gourmet, tout le monde galon jour dans la mer. Tout côté, il a essayé de chercher des gallons de gaz pour mettre dans la machine, mais il n'est pas capable. Dans le premier temps, il a fait quoi? C'est parce que ma petite santé bloquée, qui fait gaz, n'est pas capable de passer. Dans le second temps, il dit c'est l'État qui n'a pas fait commande gaz. Cependant, nous avons un ministre des Finances, Michel Patrick Boisvert, qui t'a dit la situation pays chaotique, l'État n'a pas qu'à continuer à subventionner gaz pour seulement exercice année fiscale. Ça a gagné environ 21 milliards de gouttes de subventions qui déjà baillent et qui déjà fait dans le dossier gaz dans toujours dit depuis bien avant que l'État haïtien n'a pas qu'à continuer sous même lancer ça. Donc, le problème est toujours persisté. Et c'est comme si chaque problème qui gagne, ou pas un côté solution absolue. Donc, c'est comme si autant lorsque Gauthier amélioration, mais ou toujours attendre à n'importe moment, même effet à produit, même circonstances à produit, même bagaille à fait. De ce fait, sous question crise politique, économique et sociale qui gagne dans le pays, il y a un président et Saint-Domingue, Luis Abinader, lui-même, qui exprimait préoccupation pour lui dire faut que l'autre monde vienne porter Saint-Domingue mais fort, si nous voulons expliquer comme ça. Il sentit que charge Haïti c'est sous dos lié et lui fait appel avec l'autre monde qui pour aider eux même personnellement. Lui-même personnellement il dit il est prêt pour prendre et charge sécurité pays d'Haïti. Cependant, il croit sur question sécurité humanitaire, faut gagner mes fortes qui sont de l'extérieur, soit dans l'autre pays voisin, dans la Caraïbe, là, justement, ou bien en Amérique, là, pour qui mesure du possible, capable de retirer Haïti, côté l'IA. Donc, Saint-Domingue, senti les bouquets avec nous. Et, n'a pas rappelé, c'est pas la première fois, genre de déclaration, ça a été fait. Donc, si on fait telle déclaration, c'est parce que et situation a devenu de plus en plus compliquée et vous connaissez lorsque alors on va retourner sur migrants oui mais lorsque tous les migrants ça va rentrer dans le pays on met comme Saint-Domingue plus chargé avec haïtiens que Jean l'été avant donc Abinadel pour s'écrire ça dans l'autre chef l'autre autorité dans la région pour demander porter Haïti secours porter Saint-Domingue secours dans ce sens ça alors déclaration président Joe Biden pas retourner sur ça m'a quitté le docteur Ferrari avec Johnny plus mais et soit suivre bien selon déclaration li fait c'est que li pas c'est inadmissible façon yo traité haïtien yo façon li ouais surtout dans Texas et yo prend haïtien yo migrants yo qui étaient sous frontière là donc il dit gon enquête qui ouvri pour ça et que moun sa yo a payé conséquences ça yo fait il dit c'est une honte c'est une humiliation et pour moun à vivre de la façon ça donc Joe Biden a souligné c'est pas Amérique ça les mêmes livres créé c'est pas américain ça yo et les pensées qui t'a supposé agir comme ça parce que les pensées Amérique les États-Unis c'est une grande nation donc d'une façon particulière pour américains réagir donc tout bout ça qui sont cheval ça Joe Biden a supplié que il a payé tout ça il fait donc faut nous dire comment condition migrants ça qui tout arrivé à Haïti comment ça y est ben c'est difficile yo vinn jeune pays qui grande sécurité là-dedans m'a tout ouvrir parenthèse là pour me dire que pendant semaine ça il y a près de 20 personnes qui kidnappés sorti jeudi pour arriver vendredi en moins que 24 heures il y a près de 10 personnes qui kidnappés et matin là pendant l'église a fonctionné en bas de la ville donc première église baptiste de la Réunion donc ils ont entré ils ont tué un diacre ils ont kidnappé une dame dans pile l'information qui fait quoi c'est madame ni mais jusqu'à présent pour confirmer total même il y a pile article qui dit que c'est madame diacre là qui kidnappé non seulement ils ont tué ils ont blessé un pile monde dans l'église donc diacre là ils ont kidnappé madame ni mettant plus donc n'a pas rappelé ça t'est passé déjà dans Carrefour il y a l'église adventiste qui t'a fait un service en ligne qui a fait même bagarre là et maintenant on ne sait pas quoi dire si tout le monde dépasse l'église l'école c'est peut-être dernier refuge et voilà on voit que c'est le contraire total nous pas même besoin de parler de la famille de rien et puis c'est comme ça situation est migrants yo entrer dans le pays qui est très difficile et m'a permettre moi lire un tweet Ariel Henry te fait s'il vous plaît nous sommes très préoccupés par les conditions extrêmement difficiles dans lesquelles vivent plusieurs milliers de nos compatriotes à la frontière américano-mexicaine. Ariel Henry continue pour le dire tout en leur renouvelant notre pleine solidarité, nous voulons les assurer que les dispositions sont déjà prises pour leur offrir un meilleur accueil à leur retour dans le pays et qu'ils ne seront pas laissés pour compte. Ça, vraiment, nous pas constaté, nous pas remarqué.
Ah, Carlotte Marassa, soufflette Marassa, ça y est.
Non, avec moi,
abcès sous clou, manquer mon dégât. C'est ça y est.
Nous capable faire analyse après, mais moi lis tweet là exactement pour nous attirer attention sur ça parce que le n'a pas des conditions mon yo arrivé situation yo et depuis comme si vous senti depuis mon yo te descend en avion yo met pied au aéroport tout c'est l'ouverture là yo dit moi vinn non l'enfer et yo pas connaît qui ça va le faire. Donc, ça veut dire que malgré toute déclaration, ça n'a pas vraiment gagné qui fait de concret. Dans Haïti, pas jamais préparé à rien. Pas jamais préparé à rien.
Bon, et Jolin, alors, comme nous avons deux invités et très importants, deux élus que nous allons parler avec sur la situation migrants qui sous frontière, nous ne pouvons pas les faire souffrir trop parce que nous connaissons un peu l'activité, so we'll turn to them in just a minute. Nous devons demander aussi l'autre point qui est t'es frappé actualité et en Haïti que mon cap gade nous là t'as doué qu'on est.
Bon,
parce que une nan bagay yo m'te vle dou tout c'est que nous te wè moun yo sous piste là en aéroport, l'obé pété et moun yo envahi piste. En fait, m'te peur que justement et organisation mondiale qui est responsable pour et comment on a dit ça vérifier que l'aéroport répond à norme yo te ka di Haïti pas répondre à norme parce que les civils envahissent un aéroport comme ça côté avion pas qu'il aucun.
En tout cas, je comprends, mais c'est alors je voulais attirer l'attention sur la déclaration officielle là, comme si analyse reparti puis bien après. Donc situation dans le sud là m'a garanti nous que il toujours été tendu, très difficile et ceci image nous où dans photo yo et réalité est plus grave que ça. L'on les terrain qui réalité moun dans sud après tremblement de terre là, c'est plus grave que ça. Ces bagages sont regarder face à face doit couler un jour. J'ai l'impression qu'il y a des photos yo pas prendre, il y a des images yo pas poster. Moi dans le sud à Fouji, il y a des images pas poster. C'est pour franchement, c'est parce que soit me trop compatriote ou bien trop haïtien, m'pas vle et baba yo n'importe comment, m'pas vle bay trop mauvaise image de pays. Donc, c'est très grave. Toute autorité qui a fait ci, a fait ça, mais en réalité, pas vraiment trop gros bagaille. Qui fait, pour me finir avec, alors, je rappelle nos dossiers insécurité, ils reprennent à grande force, kidnapping, c'est gros bagaille tête chargée qu'a fait dans le dernier jour, ça, yo. Et comme si leur pensée était qu'à une petite solution, donc situation compliquée. C'est dans le moment ça, Ariel Henry a participé dans la 76e Assemblée générale de l'ONU, semaine ça, samedi passé. Donc, côté, ils promettent et faut l'ordre démocratique retourne dans le pays, il faut que l'institution soit capable de recamper rapidement. Ariel Henry toujours exprimer préoccupation sur migrants, d'exprimer préoccupation tout sur justice, président Jovenel Moïse doit joindre, il fait connaître quelle que soit la situation. Il faut qu'il joigne justice malgré Ariel Henry, il a trouvé qu'il y a en contact avec Youn Namoun qui est très recherché et Félix Joseph justement, monde qui est très recherché dans mon président Jovenel Moïse a été joint en contact avec lui. Donc Ariel Henry toujours dit même quelle que soit l'agence ça y est, que Jovenel Moïse jeune justice c'est en gros ça et qui gagne dans l'actualité pendant la parler là. Donc on connaît Johnny qui est invité. Est-ce que vous avez une autre question?
Non apprécié et actualité à que nous parce que c'est toujours très important pour que nous joignent parole directement de nous-mêmes comme journalistes qui en Haïti pour informer nous sur la situation dans le pays. Et m'apprécier que vous faites songer et pendant que nous parlons parler aujourd'hui là de crise qui sous frontière, mais pour ne pas oublier que et crise tremblement de terre surtout dans le sud du pays et il n'y a pas gravé si bien comprendre ça dit et réponse que nous t'attendons de l'État haïtien qui lui-même fait des promesses et pour aider Mounio et réponse ça pas là. Donc et nous pas qu'à virer les yeux, n'oublier ça qui dans le sud pays en grandance malgré que directement devant genou là c'est monde qui sous frontière qui besoin d'aide mais bon en gros bah yo en pile.
Et si ça pas trop ou peut-être à la fin du programme d'ailleurs retourner encore parce que nous apprenons de la part de nos ministres du Fouji en Haïti, c'est que à cause tout le monde qui vient déporter en Haïti, gagner un paquet de requêtes, le monde qui a demandé qui ça Fouji a fait pour eux, et ils voulaient rentrer dans Fouji, ils voulaient faire au même tout, comprenant que Fouji gagne assez l'argent, peut-être il est capable de répondre à besoin. Alors nous allons retourner sur ça encore et puis pour rentrer dans plus de détails tout et au sujet de qui Jean mission a été passé, qui Jean bagaille pour nous derrière, nous allons rentrer dans les détails, mais pour permettre nous capables de recevoir et accueillir et nos invités spéciaux, comme nous dit, qui déjà soulignent ensemble avec nous. Et more than welcome pour capable pour participer dans le dialogue là. Et nous comptons et encore une fois, nous avons dit bonne fête. Et nous t'ai dit le dimanche dernier sur l'émission et nous t'ai motivé à partir de ça. Et pour retourner encore aujourd'hui, nous voulons témoigner même l'amour ça. Merci pour le bon travail qu'on a fait dans le pays. Kembe là, Kembe Red, Kembe Jam. And with that being said, we're going to segue, like you mentioned earlier, Johnny, with our elected officials who are online with us. Et nous voulons, pendant nous souhaiter bien bonne fête à Joie-Saint-Gelais, mais nous voulons dire surtout bonne fête à Council Member Farah Louis, qui dans jour qui passé là, malgré c'était anniversaire, mais il a choisi pour être dans la frontière là avec Council Member Farah Rita Joseph, qui est dans la bataille ensemble avec lui. Eh bien, nous remercions et nous disons merci pour le déplacement qui a été fait. Mais en pile, on n'a pas tant de déplacement ça qui a été fait là, que déplacement ça n'est pas tant vain. Il y a un paquet de questions et nous a posé et sans que c'est pas nous capables de dire c'est pas même des attaques, mais quand même they'd like to know the facts. Et il y a un paquet de rumeurs que nous pensons nous anticiper moi-même avec Johnny pour nous jouer un pile clarification parce que nous comprenons bon côté pas non c'est ça nous avons carré un fact-finding mission nous sommes sur les lieux et il y a un pile question qui a posé à savoir est-ce que des gens qui mourent est-ce que yo fait ça que les human trafficking avec eux parce que soudainement il y a un paquet de monde dans frontière là qui disparaît c'est dans le débat ça nous allons rentrer en quelques minutes mais encore une fois Council Member Lewis you look gorgeous you look beautiful. Happy birthday to you. And on behalf of District 45 and the entire community, on behalf of the Haitian community, we want to say happy birthday to our princess. You are my princess. You are my daughter. I appreciate you, love you. You and I have been on the road lately a lot. I have not posted because I've been too busy with our migrant brothers and sisters who have arrived. We've been on the road with Council Member Rita Joseph as well. All three of us late night on the road, working together. I have the photographs to show parce que nous tout le monde connaît moi-même le travail avec évidence nous pas poster pour nous faire photo up but we post about real work back to school activities that happen you know with the creation of DREP all of that we're going to get into but we wanted to say thank you to the two of you the two soldiers Rita Joseph way back when soldier always on the road always at it but we're glad you finally made it into office where you can make a bigger difference make bigger impact in your community. But il y a quelques secrets nous allons mettre dehors là sous Rita Joseph que quelqu'un cap pas connaît et nous aimons noter là nous grandir ensemble moi avant nous gain même l'âge et faut que nous mettions quelques secrets dehors pour pas comprendre là où aurait été bien quiet pour comprendre son monde comme ça qu'il a et c'est tout engagement communautaire ça c'est toute contribution ça au débat communautaire qui permet dans journée aujourd'hui à arriver quand on arrive you've paid your dues so congratulations to you Rita. I just wanted to say that publicly. Johnny, I know you have a slew of questions. I want to give you a chance to.
Thank you.
Welcome our sisters.
Yes, I think you've said everything that needed to be said, and I just want to welcome the both of you. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, and I think it's important for us to just get into the conversation because, as Mona Lisa just said. There are a lot of questions. So first of all, just wanted to start out with, can you give us a sense of what it is that you experienced when you went to Del Rio? I guess we'll start with Council Member Farah Louis. Good afternoon, welcome, and let's just jump in the conversation.
Good afternoon, Johnny, and good afternoon, Dr. Ferrari. Thank you for the opportunity for both myself and Councilmember-elect Rita Joseph to join you this evening. And I just want to say good afternoon to everybody that's watching and tuning in. I think this is like my second time or first time on the Mojo Show. So I'm really second time. So I'm really excited to be here again with both of you. And I hold you both in very high regard. And I also want to thank Councilmember-elect Rita Joseph for even coming on the trip with me. I thought she probably thought I was crazy because I was just like, yeah, let's go to Texas and let's go figure out how we can help the people. And she was like, let's go. And you don't really get people that will just jump right in and want to just take on a responsibility like that. But Dr. Ferrari and Rita, I just want to say thank you because I work with both of you in different capacities. And I just thank you for understanding why it's so important for us to help our community. But it's the two of you who have been doing this for so long. I look up to both of you who have been doing this for a very, very long time. I didn't want to do PR until I saw Rita one day doing PR and I was working with Hot 97. And I said, I think I want to do something like that. So I want to say thank you to both of you for helping the community. So So on Monday, I had called my pastor because I was calling a lot of different federal elected officials and just different elected officials and trying to see like, how can we help the people in Texas? And then we saw the images of the Border Patrol agents on horses, whipping people with their reins. And I was like, enough is enough. We got to figure out a way to get to Texas. So in my heart of hearts, I said to myself, okay, I'm going to create a delegation. We're going to go down there on Friday and see what we could do. And I got on the phone with my pastor and he was like, yeah, you got to go there right away. And I'm so grateful to him and Keith White from CCC because we got on the phone with Congressman Hakeem Jeffries' office to figure out like how, when we get there, how can we help the folks, the Haitian refugees that were there at the bridge and at the border. And we created this delegation, which Councilmember-elect Joseph was a part of, and a few other organizers and attorneys from the community. And the goal for us was to go there to support folks that were about to be processed so that they had the resources and the information to get to their respective designations, whether that was New York, New Jersey, Georgia, wherever, and to help the folks that need to be orientated and prepared to speak to a judge or a patrol agent so that they know what to say in order for them to be prepared for that conversation. Most of the time, when you speak to a Border Patrol agent, you have to let them know that your life is in danger. If you get sent back to Haiti, you're going to get murdered or you're going to die. If you say anything else, you're getting deported. So we needed folks to understand what that process looked like. Rita Joseph comes with a ton of resources and context. Rita Pierre comes with a tons of resources and context. Mona Lisa, you were so instrumental in this. So when we went there prepared to set up shop to create like some type of a clinic where we can support folks. And what we had in our heart and in our head was different than when we got there. When we got there, it was definitely a lot of challenges and barriers. It was hard for us to get to the people that were under the bridge. They did not want us to talk to them or have access to them. And it was difficult just to get folks to allow us to be a part of the process. But I thank God for Jesus, because as much as we pushed back, both myself and Councilmember-elect Joseph, we pushed back and we were able to get our whole delegation in. And Councilmember-elect Joseph was able to speak to some families while we were in there. She was able to engage with some people. And we had conversations with the Border Patrol agents about medical services, about safety, about next steps for these folks. And we didn't like their responses. So we put a lot of pressure on them, asked a lot of questions, and we ended up getting kicked out because we were too inquisitive and too concerned. At the end of the day, you'll see in the press, sorry for the background. At the end of the day, you'll see in the press, they'll say 8,000 people are still here in the United States that are Haitian refugees. All of it is lies. There were 16,000 people at the border. I can say, and Councilmember-elect Joseph can confirm, we're under the impression less than 2,000 people got left behind of the 16,000. And even 2,000 is too much. Because we saw some of the folks being processed and it was probably like 30, 40, 50 people. There's no way they had 2,000 people that are still here that are Haitian refugees. So I think there are issues with their numbers. I think they're trying to coordinate and create a story that is not true. In addition to that, there are a bunch of kidnappings that happened even while we were there. People that were camouflaging as folks that wanted to support Haitian refugees, packing them into vans, and the vans disappeared with these people. We don't know where they are. So while we were there on Thursday and we're able to speak to 2,900, 3,000 people, see what the situation was, ask the questions, the New York delegation, I'll call us that, with the New York delegation, the next day, we came up with a plan. We went back to our Airbnb and debrief, and we said, we're gonna go back the next day and figure out how we're gonna support the people that are there. When we got there, it was empty. And Councilmember-elect Joseph will expound more on what that reaction was for us. I think myself, her, and Rita Pierre, like we woke up this morning just emotionally distraught because it felt like the rapture. It felt like, oh my God, we came here to help all these people and support these people and create a clinic and do all, and they were gone. I'm talking about little babies and children.
And council member, just, and I'm sorry to jump in, and I just want to make sure that I think it's important I wanted to hone in on a particular point. I think it's an important point. I think there are folks who are already criticizing, well, why did they go and why did they do? And I think you outlaid for us many things that people in the community sometimes do not understand, which is the fact that you and this delegation was there, right? And you saw, right, exactly what happened to those folks. You were able to advocate while you were there. Your presence, right? When Border Patrol sees Black, Haitian, elected official show up, right? It sends a message. So I just wanted to stop you because I think it's an important point for any criticism that might come in terms of people saying, well, why did they have to go, right?
Well, they had no one
there, right? It's an important message in itself. Right. In addition to everything else that you've added in terms of seeing how the people are processed, ensuring that some of them understood, hearing their stories directly and understanding what they went through. And then finally being sort of like going to bed one day with thousands of people there, and then the next day they disappeared. When we just looking at it in the news, we can believe the story that they did this, that, and the other, but you were there. And you were like, these people can just evaporate like that. So I just wanted to kind of hone in on those 2 points because it's important for people to understand how necessary it was for Black, Haitian elected officials to show up. C'est pas petit misangado moun yo gen moun ki la. So they're going to treat them differently because you were there. I just wanted to stop there and just sort of make that point and make it resonate because I think it's extremely important.
And I'm happy that you did that because what was the most important part was that we were there. There were other people that went there before us. I heard the Black Caucus went there. I'm not too sure what work they were doing there. I know they took some pictures. They were allowed inside to take pictures. We were not allowed to do that. There were big men with big guns looking at myself and council member Joseph and the rest of the delegation like, I dare you to go speak to these people. And while we did take a chance and we did speak to some of them, we took the chance. They could have shot us and killed us.
Mm-hmm.
We have stories
Texas.
that they were there. But the most important part, Johnny, that you shared was that we are a delegation of people that look like these people, that speak the same language of these people. And we went there just to support them. And that was really important for all of us because, and while there was people in the delegation that don't speak Creole and they were Haitian, what was important for us is that it's Black people that needed the support. I'm grateful Al Sharpton went. I'm grateful Tamika Malley was there and a whole bunch of people that were there. And I think we all had the same mindset. How can we help these people? How can we support them? And to know we only had 24 hours to do that, and that 24 hours is cut short, we have so much more work to do. And we were helping people in the airport. We were helping them identify their family members and sponsors, helping them navigate through the airport, helping them navigate next to, Rita's with me right now. She's calling people to make sure they could get plane tickets because they're in Houston instead of Del Rio. Like, we're still working, even though we came back to New York. So there's so much more work that needs to be done. And I just want to make it clear that we need federal dollars to be given to NGOs and organizations here in New York City that we're aware of and that we trust and that are reputable in order to help these people that are going to be getting on the next Greyhound, the Amtrak, and on the airplane that are coming here to Brooklyn that need housing. I don't want the people in our community to expect us to just find a place to just house people. That's not how it works, especially for city council. Do not call Rita or myself expecting us to just find you housing. City council, the city, municipality, we offer you shelter. You will go to a shelter. That's the housing that we provide, or we help you with affordable housing applications. There's no place for us to put people for housing. It's up to the federal government to provide those resources, and we're gonna need that help.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Council Member-elect Joseph, and I love the sound of that.
Thank you.
I really, it's been a long time. I think the last time I saw you, I must have flown back from Haiti for something, and I saw you at that restaurant in Brooklyn. I can't remember the name of it. It's closed now, unfortunately.
Lakai. It's Lakai.
Lakai, right across from BAM. So I remember that it is so great to see you. It's been a very long time. Can you give us your perspective in terms of if you can expand a little bit on maybe some of the points that Council Member Lewis had just shared from your perspective, and she said that you were going to add to it. So just please do.
Definitely. When we arrived Thursday morning, we went to eat. Of course, we were starving. We ate, and then we went off but it was a whole production just to get us in. Emails, names. It wasn't just walk through the gate. It was emails, and our names had to be, and titles had to be attached to it. And when we finally got inside, and I keep saying this, it was like everything was scripted, as if you were walking through the theater. So it wasn't just like, you just go in. There was people to take you from point A to point B and be like, look what we did. We built a hospital in 3 days. Oh, do they take showers? Oh no, they take dry showers. I was like, what? Do they get COVID tested? Because they were piled up on top of each other. No. Is there social distancing happening? No. They had no mask. And the youngest child I was able to engage with was 4 months old. Spoke to the parents. When did this child, when did you get here? When did you get on the road? She said she left her journey, I believe in August or July, and finally made it to the border. So I was like, you're like still pregnant or just had the baby. And for families to just uproot themselves to leave, I want people to understand that people don't just get up and migrate to new places without them feeling a certain way, without feeling threatened, without feeling desperate, with no hope. And that's what I saw under that tent. And then when they arrived here to be treated so inhumane, they were sleeping on the floor. What you saw was what we saw. The tents, the sheets, the little huts made with wood, that's what we saw. So if it rained that night, know that every single one of them would have been drenched in water. So I walked away as humble as I can ever be with the experience. It was like I was reliving 2010 again, all over. And it's always traumatizing. And I keep saying that we're dealing with 3 crises all at once. You have an assassination, you have an earthquake, and now you have an influx of incoming refugees. So when do we get the time? That's why I keep saying mental health. And I was saying that was one of the things we talked about in DREP. Mental health support, even for ourselves, will be very, very important. Because we're traumatized over and over and over and over. And I don't care how resilient we say we are, at one point we're going to break down. The breakdown is going to happen.
I have.
This morning I went to church and I was crying at the pulpit. When I was talking, I just started crying. Pastor Sam was like, yes. And I was like, yeah, I don't think we processed because we were such on the move with the adrenaline. We're there to help our people. We're here until it hit us this morning when I started thinking about where did that 4-month-old baby go? Yeah. And what Councilmember Lewis said, it was like the rug was pulled right under our feet. He went, it was like the evidence, the scene of the crime was erased. As if no one was ever there. That's what bothered us. We left like wow. And we kept on asking questions. We tried to talk to the mayor. The mayor was trying to leave. Finally, we got the chief of staff. We kind of cornered her. We were like, do you guys care? Where did they go? They were like, we don't know. They're like, we get a briefing every single day, but they don't give us much. That's what she kept on saying. Because I knew the day we got there was some White House policy person that greeted us. And she told us, well, we're from the White House. And I'm like, what are the next steps? What are we doing? What are we doing with these 2,900 people? And when after that, we went to another place where they were processing them with Gurleen Joseph. And the amount of people we saw is not even 250 people that they said that they sent to process. It was less than that. And they were dropping buses of people. I remember there were children. We were feeding them. We were giving them backpacks, and they were off to Houston, and then the next step. And a large thing, we're hearing a lot of human trafficking. Gurleen herself told me there was one person who showed up with like, I heard they have children here. I came to get a few. I was like, this is not a market. So we know for sure there are families floating somewhere out there. And that bothers me, that I don't know where these families are. I know they scattered. That's one of the DHS rules. When they place people, they scatter them. Some of the people we spoke to at the airport was going to Charlotte yesterday because we were coming in with a group. Some of them were going to Charlotte, Indiana, Arizona, New York, New Jersey, Atlanta. So they scattered all over. I would like to have the data from DHS to tell me where these people were placed.
So, council members, it's a very important point you raised here, because I think, when you think about a migrant who's been traveling for months to all of a sudden be processed and dropped somewhere in Indiana, right? I mean, my assumption, and I'd love to maybe check with you on this, was that the folks that they released them to families or friends, or they had some connection to someone in the United States. Now, and I know that they put the tracker.
GPS tracker.
Right. Now, are those folks, let's just say in Indiana, and maybe there is a Haitian community in Indiana I don't know about, but is it because they have family there, or is it just like they're sort of placing them somewhere temporarily? From
that was one of the, I know some of them will also have detention centers. Some of them, they didn't say whether there was family. I know some of these weird places some of them did have family, like Arizona. There's a little Haitian, matter of fact, there's a Haitian American woman who's a city council member in Arizona.
Wow.
Yeah, we have a council member that's in Arizona. So I don't know if they were placing them in detention centers. They didn't want to say much. That was the other thing. And the other thing we found was very odd was that the Border Patrol had their own photographer. So a lot of the stories that were dropping into the news was also very narrative. So they controlled the narrative. They had a beautiful lens camera. I was like, oh, so you're the guy taking all the HD pictures that I'm seeing on the news. And then they're controlling it. So here's a bad looking picture, but hey, look, we're fixing it. So they controlled the narrative. So I was like, interesting. But we weren't allowed to take pictures. The pictures they took of us, they promised they would share it. We spoke to the people. We had a chance to talk to them. Council member Designe was able to address them. We asked questions on the side, like how long you've been here, how long did it take you to get here? The limited conversation and limited contact they gave us, we took advantage of that.
Great. So either one of you can answer. Oh, Mona Lisa, I'm going to mesdames yo chaque jour. M'pas quitter poser question là même. But I know you mentioned DREP, and you know, either one of you can actually jump in on this particular question. But I think, you know, the next question that the community has is, okay, this happened, and we kind of saw the reality of it, right? And which you've described quite clearly, vividly. To all of us who may not have lived it, but we lived it through your eyes. Now, the next question naturally is, you know, what are we doing as a community? And you mentioned DREP before. I'd love to maybe hear from you what has been sort of the response from the community that you heard of, and how does DREP play a role in that? And then, of course, we're going to go, what are the future things that DREP is going to do? But just wanted to give people an opportunity to understand this. First of all, what is DREP? Is it drip like coffee, or is it DREP like grep? So tell us, what is this grep business or DREP? What is that?
Disaster relief emergency. Am I saying it right, Mona?
Yes, you are. Go ahead. Disaster relief emergency preparedness.
That's right.
Preparedness. We put this in place during the earthquake, but we had to wear another hat real quick because we're dealing with two crises at the same time.
Absolutely.
So in order for us not to carry all the burden, we started reaching out to community partners. This heavy lifting has to be done with other community partners. If you're an expert in this area, we're calling on housing, education, legal expert, interpreters, doctors, lawyers, whatever your profession is, your community needs you, we ask you to step up and put your hands. Farah always says, "Qui ça parle toujours dit un pile chai?" Oui, so this is the moment where this saying is coming into practice. So I'm borrowing council members' line for a minute, but this is what we're doing. So we've been on there all along. Either it's legal assistance, they're gonna need it. They're gonna need to enroll their children in school, find permanent housing. They're even gonna need jobs. We've been assisting with placing families, buying groceries, from the simple thing you think, buying groceries, helping somebody find a pair of shoes. That was one of the things we found. These people were traveling for months. Shoes, basic underwear, toothpaste, toothbrush, every single thing from A to Z is gonna be needed. In our community, we're going to make sure that this remains a permanent fixture, not only when we have a crisis, because our community is crisis. We're crisis. We operate on crisis. Crisis, boom, 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 we fix it, and then we're ready for the next crisis. But this time around, we'll be ready for many more. This is the time we will lead. We're going to lead, and our community is stepping up. And I'm so proud in each and every one of the partners that step up to give a hand. I thank you on behalf of the community. And you don't only have to be Haitian to be part of this. As long as you're human and you have a heart, join us. Join our hands. Let's do it.
Yes.
And I think Rita summed it up the best. And I'm sorry for the background.
No worries.
I think Rita summed it up the best, because DREP is not a Haitian thing. DREP is a community coalition, a community initiative to deal with emergencies and crises that are happening. This is an innovative group and coalition. And Mona, I want to thank you so much taking this by the horns and just spearheading this with us so that we have a better response on how to deal with matters. We have a lot of people that are, I would say, friends of the Haitian community that always want to help and be supportive. And this is the way to do it. Joining DREP and being a part of this coalition is the way to address a lot of the matters happening. Right now, our goal is to deal with the migrant issue, as well as close out the relief project that we were working on in Haiti. And Mona, I don't know if you're gonna highlight this at some point on your show, that on September 24th, we were able to ship everything to Haiti thanks to Mayor de Blasio and his administration. And I wanna thank you for coordinating that effort with Halifo and some of the other folks in the community. And I wanna thank you, Rita, for getting us additional locations and spaces so that folks could drop off donations. And DREP is here to stay. We're gonna keep fighting for this initiative. It's under Little Haiti BK that's spearheaded by Ruth Etienne and Jackson Rockminster. So we're so excited. And Johnny, I hope you could join the effort as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Trust me, he's coming, he's there already. Wherever I am, he is. Come on, Johnny. So, you know, I truly, I'm sitting here with goosebumps and they haven't gone away. They haven't gone away. And it's been an honor for me to really be part of this journey. And this journey didn't start today. It didn't start last year. It didn't start 2015. It started way back when in the 1990s. And I'm looking at Rita. I want to cry, but I'm fighting back the tears. Okay, I'm fighting back the tears. And every time I see Rita, and that's the only picture that keeps coming back in my mind when we organized that march on the Brooklyn Bridge. And nobody knows who those trailblazers are, and you are it, Rita. You're it. Okay, I didn't have that level of visibility because I was that nerd who went to Woolworth, bought stencils to make flyers, okay, and with markers, and put them under people's doors on Ocean Avenue, on Nostrand, on Church. And we were like, you know, two idiots, late night, trying to, you know, get people, rowdy up this community. And this was very historical. So I want people to understand, especially our elected officials, when they stand today, those are the shoulders that they're standing on. But it's the truth. Had we not spoken up, just like you guys just went to Texas and try to do for our people, speak up. If you see something, say something. We were already using that slogan somehow. So doctors who now have their jobs, wherever they are, whatever big title that they carry, they're standing on your little, you know, little shoulders, right? My little shoulders, your little shoulders. Those of us who were in college at the time and did this work, we dared to step up and step out. And I remember getting in trouble with Wilson Desir because I was using the copy machine to make extra copies. I remember that. And I went to a corner, I cried. I'm like, oh my God, I get in trouble with him. He'll never let me back in the office. You understand? And even Wilson Desir himself, the youth, the young people were there. And I'm saying this to put that level of community involvement, civic engagement. It's in our DNA. It's part of us. It's who we are. We don't do it for show. People think sometimes it's always about a photo op. No, it's not that. And there's many of the work that we do, especially with DREP now. A lot of it is behind the scenes. Nobody knows the late nights that, you know, we're out there on the road together. We're packing up the back of that trunk. Your car is loaded, Rita. Councilmember Lewis' car is loaded. My car loaded. We're picking up items. Is that what we were called to do or to be? But we're humble enough to understand there's a crisis to be there for our community. Councilmember Lewis mentioned something earlier about the federal government stepping up. We need funding. We need funding. And we're glad to have voices like you guys in office to help us with that fight. But I also want to take this opportunity to thank the AMHE, Association des Médecins Haïtiens de l'Étranger, under the leadership of Dr. Carl Latortue, who's been like a cornerstone, like a rock. This man has stood with me, with us. Let me not say me because there's no I in team. This has been nothing but teamwork. And we realize that teamwork really makes the dream work. Halefo, you know, and the Lieutenant Celestin. I mean, we fought during the whole process. But at the end of the day, it's all about the love and the passion that we have for Haiti. So honestly, Rita, you especially, knowing that once upon a time, we didn't have access like we have now. So trust me, I'll never stop enjoying the privileges that we now have, but there's so much more to be done. So how do you see yourself? How do you foresee yourself as you're entering these gates? You're already in. Let me not say entering. You've already entered. You're already in you know, in. Let me tell you, what magic. But how do you foresee, you know, the next 2 years of your life, my fellow DOE partner, now city council member?
One of the things I said when I went to city council school, remember, the first day for me will be very emotional because I'll be taking the dreams and aspiration of my community with me to City Hall. I'm taking the dreams of my grandparents who raised me, who brought me here at 2 years old, who raised me. I am their American dreams, but remember, I am you and they are me. I am you. You guys raised me. I am this representation of this community that ever since I was a child was here, and all I've ever wanted to make sure that they were good. So now I have the opportunity to sit at a table along with my new road dog, Farah, for us to go and make changes for our community and be the voices. There's 4 Haitian Americans going into city council, but then I'll have these amazing 31 women that I'm going into with mothers who will make sure childcare is taken care, healthcare, housing, education. We have a lot of work to do, but I believe that the coalition that we're building now with these amazing women are going to be, and the men coming in, but we'll be majority this time. For the first time in the history of city council, we'll have 31 council women.
Wow.
So we're excited. I'm going to do everything. And remember, this is in partnership. I can never do anything by myself. I can be the voice and the partnership of this community. The heavy lifting has to be done with all of us, not just with myself. There's no I in team, so I'm ready for my community to partner with me and send their baby girl to city council.
You are indeed our baby girl. I mean, despite our age, the similarities in age that we have, but trust me, again, with the level of pride, knowing once upon a time we were the booty scratchers, we were the HBOs, right? Those fights in front of Erasmus High School. Me leaving Washington Irving from the city to walk, you know, to take the train back and get off on Church Avenue because there was a march.
Go have a fight
because they're beating, you know, one of our brothers and sisters, and we're like, no, this ain't happening. Okay. And again, throughout this whole entire journey of this community, we know with the Patrick Doismont murder, all of these things that have transpired in the community, we always find ourselves like deep into it. And those are the days, those are the times away from the camera that nobody sees. Okay. Being part of host committee, trying to, you know, be the glue that keeps and connect people together, finding resources. That's what we do behind the scenes without seeking any type of glory. So today's your time. Girls, shine on. Shine on.
But I also want us to celebrate the moments that we've had. We've come a long way as well as a community. We have so many more elected officials in state and city level. We've had commissioners, we've had mayors, we've had a lot of great progress as well as a community. So let's continue to push on. And I will always be here to be that voice to push on to make sure that our community is represented always.
Council member, I mean, that is an extremely important point that I think sometimes is missed by the community. And it's our job here at the Mojo Show to ensure that people are not just informed, but really understand how the process really works. And very often, in some of the criticism that comes, that goes towards our elected official is that they're not doing enough on immigration, or they're not doing enough on certain issues. And I think Council Member Farah Lewis, who she wrote to say that she had some technical issues. She'll be back on if she can, but you know, she was in a place where the connections weren't as good. She made reference to it in terms of housing, for example, and she shared what she could do as an elected official at the city council level, and what has to be done at the sort of sometimes state or probably in this particular situation, the federal level. And I think it's important for people to understand that there are things that happen that when the federal government has the authority or is the one that's sort of handling it, our elected officials, and this is why it was great that you and the council member was there and others from Florida, other delegations, they still can advocate on behalf of the community, even though they don't have the authority at the federal level to make it happen. And so sometimes the advocacy works, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult, right? But folks may not understand that as a council member, there's something that you can do on the city level versus, you know, if you're elected at the state level versus if you're elected at the federal level, and how those, you know, those divide exist, because in Haiti, that doesn't exist, right? The deputies are involved in everything. The mayors are involved in everything. The senators, everybody's involved in everybody else's business, where it doesn't happen that way here in terms of structure. That being said, the question that I had to follow up on is what can be, you know, as elected official, and I know that you'll be part of NEON, are there already some thoughts in terms of what could be next for this group of Haitian American elected officials as it relates to this issue, but also, you know, like you said earlier, it's triple crisis as it relates to the many crises that we are dealing with as a wider community?
Again, you hit it on the nail. One of the things we need to be doing is working with our elected colleagues, whether it's on city, state, and federal, and together we could do more. And I keep saying that we cannot operate as separate entities. Actually, we're one. Whatever happens with federal can trickle down to the city, but we have to work. And that Councilmember Lewis said that if federal steps in, we will be able to work with them in making sure that resettlements and for the incoming refugees are in place in terms of housing, in terms of education, in terms of even job training, legal. So those are the things that have to happen through federal, but trickle down to us as the local level municipalities to support those incoming things, definitely. So some things are, you know, not in our jurisdiction, but we must work with our colleagues in government to make sure they happen and advocate on behalf of our constituents for them to happen.
You know, the upcoming year is going to be quite challenging because of what just took place.
Yes.
And I'm kind of comparing it to the George Floyd situation. The whole world was watching. And the final decision making as to the people who caused the loss of his life had to be taken very seriously. Right now, the whole world is watching, and I'm asking, where are our friends? How come the streets are not flooded, just like when we were doing the Black Lives Matter movement? Are we going to remain silent? As elected official, how does that make you feel, Councilmember Joseph, to have to face those challenges in the days ahead when people are going to be turning around and say, well, what are our politicians doing? What are the limitations of you being in that seat?
Once we must also educate. And as an educator, I'm always ready to teach. You have to know what my limitations are, what I cannot do. But if I make a phone call to my counterpart, my city council, my state senator, or my assembly person, or my congresswoman, it trickles down into all of that happening. So they have to understand my jurisdiction, where I begin and where I end, and where I continue with my state partner, and where I continue with my colleagues in federal government. So that's where the education has to come in, that council members don't do housing. We don't do immigration, but my congresswoman does. I'm going to pick up the phone and say, Congresswoman Clark, what do we do? How can we partner up? How can you send resources to this community? And we've been in conversation with Congresswoman Clark. And I know that she'll be working with us to make sure that, and I know she's working with, I think she called us on Friday. We'll be working with different non-for-profits that are reputable to make sure that the transition of the refugees coming in will be smooth. And with partnership with DREP. DREP is on the ground as well. And they're reputable people working as this team, this amazing dream team. So I'm glad to be part of it. Thank you so much for including me as well.
I mean, we had an amazing meeting last night. Unfortunately, we've had some technical difficulties, but I'm telling you, we're heading into the right direction. I'm ready to take on the task. And I know I have enough backups. I have your support. I have Johnny's support. The past few weeks have not been easy, but I realized the load kind of got lighter because I was not alone. And I'm truly looking forward with excitement to see what the days ahead are bringing for our fellow brothers and sisters. So we're not operating under the same guidelines that were operating years ago. Today, there's hope. We see the signs of hope, but at the same time, I also see some challenges that I would like to address with my partner, Johnny. Johnny, how do you foresee the Democratic Party as far as election is concerned based on what happened? Because I'm asking that question based on the fact that many people have gotten so pissed off, so upset, so angry. They're saying, oh, the Democrats are not doing anything. They're not doing this, they're not doing that. I'm not voting anymore. And I know you and I are both passionate about civic engagement, civic education. So what do you tell our people today, Johnny, as we're doing this session to not just educate, but we're informing our community. We're trying to also empower our community. So how do you change that mindset within communities, Johnny?
Well, the first thing I think is what I always do is to acknowledge that we are right to be angry. We are right to be disappointed. That's being said, I think it's also important to recognize, for those of us who live here in the United States, the system in which we live. And we live in a two-party system. There are Democrats, there are Republicans. One may not like it, but it is what it is. So as a citizen, and we hope every single citizen will be an engaged citizen that participate in this franchise for which many people died. And you know how I feel about when our brothers, sisters, Haitians are talking about African-American this, African-American that. And I'm like, those people, they bled, they marched, they died so that we as Black people, when we come here, we can have the opportunities that we have, right? So I say all this to say that the right to vote is a right that people died for. So I hold that right as one that is sacred. So in the context of where we are, what I try to explain to people is that you need to make a choice. Now, the choice is yours, right? I don't tell people which party to vote for, but you're going to need to look at those two parties and say, here's a video that came out with a president that says, I feel disappointed about what happened. Those people who were on horseback treating Haitians like this need to pay. Maybe he'll do it, maybe he won't, I don't know. Conversely, we have another former president who was holding a rally, who was saying those the CBP officers were doing God's work. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that in one party that is far from perfect, that needs so much work, we can do something. Another party, their leaders are clearly working to minimize, steal, reduce, whatever. They don't want us in this franchise, meaning that they don't want us. Now, I'm not the one to suggest to anybody, I'm a Democrat, right? People can choose. But on this particular thing, on this particular issue, I think the fight is about making this administration be better, making this administration do better. I believe that if we say, well, they're all the same, and we get out, then we can't ask, right? Look, if you're not in the game, you can't score.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So as a matter of fact,
be in it to win it.
Yeah, I think, it's fine if we have people who are Republicans that are fighting for Haitians, and we have people who are Democrats who are fighting for Haitians. Right on. What I don't adhere to is the idea that we will voluntarily give a group of people what they've been pushing to get, which is to get us to not vote. So that's where I am. And so as it relates to this issue, I say analyze the situation. I acknowledge we need to be upset. It's rightful to be upset, to be angry, to be disappointed. And that said, to say, how do I make him change and do the things that I want him to do? But not to take the ball. You don't even have, if you walk away, you don't even get to take your ball and walk away with it, right? Because the game is still playing. You just off the game.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
Johnny, I agree with you. Democracy is not a spectator sport. You don't sit on the sidelines and watch democracy. You get involved, you get the ball, you play, you hold your players accountable.
That's right.
Joe Biden dropped the ball.
Totally.
Now he needs to pick it up, fix it, but if we're not in his ears, he won't know what to fix. Right. I'm not going to walk away and make it easy for him. I give up. No, you're going to hear my voice. You're going to hear my community. And I'm going to hold and say, I voted. And I voted on these values because our values aligned.
That's right.
And for this reason or the other, it didn't work out this week. But I'm not abandoning you, but I'm going to hold you accountable.
That's right.
So therefore, you can do better, like Maya Angelou said. If you know better, you will do better. So now if he knows, it took a little, from a PR perspective, it took a little longer for him to address the situation, which I felt he should have. His crisis communication people dropped the ball too. But I'm not going to walk away from the Democratic Party. They need to shape up. Yes, we're going to call them out when we have to. That's what democracy is. Call them out. You were wrong. You messed up. You dropped the ball. That's not what you told us. So let's do better, but I'm not giving my vote over. That's what we did in 2016. We slept. We're like, And then when we woke up, we're like, what? Oops. And it was oops for 4 years. It wasn't oops like for 2 days or 4 days. It was for 4 long years. So don't mess it up again. We have a midterm election coming up. Let's pick ourselves up. Let's brush ourselves over. That don't mean we forget. We hold them accountable. We hold them. Hold their feet to the fire. That's what we're supposed to do. Don't just be complacent about democracy.
You know what? That feels so good to hear from a politician herself. Hold me. You're basically saying, hold me to the fire.
I said that too. If I don't deliver, you better vote me out.
Girl.
Don't keep me in because I'm one of yours. Then that means you're enabling me. I don't want to be no one's enabler. Don't do that. Make sure.
Councilmember Joseph, you have witnessed the fight that I've had behind closed doors. And you know I'm not a proponent of people disrespecting my politicians. But you know I fight. You know I'm a fighter.
Yes, you are.
Oh my God. Listen, sometimes I swear you guys are going to block me on your phones for the amount of times that I've harassed you guys, literally. Even everybody who knows me in Brooklyn, they call me a beast, Johnny. If you haven't heard, they literally call me, because when it comes to advocating for this community, for the needs.
I don't need to hear, like I don't know.
You live with her, right? I know.
Sorry. Let me tell you, I've literally walked into Farrah's office. I say, Farrah, if you don't give me money to go buy food for these, I will take your lunch and go feed them. And I'm looking at her like she's gonna say, you know what, get out of my office or I'll call the cops on you. I'll literally walk into I'll literally take money from their bags and say, look, we need more. You got to do more. Councilmember Eugene, he went through hell with me. He's like, oh God, here comes Mona Lisa. And my thing is, I'd say to them, look, if you can't do the job, get out. Let me sit in it and I'll do it. I'll do it myself. But you know what? I'm glad today we have sisters like yourself who've been part of the struggle. You've been in it. You've walked with us with the fire. Now you're gonna walk down the valley. We're gonna be right behind you, sister. Trust me. You know you need somebody to even sweep the office. Call me. I'll come sweep it. I don't care. But at the end of the day, I need you to deliver.
That's right.
Those brothers and sisters of ours who come, this is their land too, because we fought. We all fought too. This is your land. This is my land. This is their land. And we're going to make sure that they walk around this community with dignity. They don't have to hide in the holes where they live anymore. I don't have to be the only person that they know, the only person that they trust. Let them build trust too in our politicians. If they know that I know you started this fight already, Rita, council member. You did during the pandemic. Yes. I remember how much I harassed you. And you were like, Mo, you don't have to hit me, girl. Don't come at me like that. I got this. I've already done something. Go to HCC. And that was like music to my ear. Please tell us about that initiative that you put in place. You weren't even in office yet.
Which one? I've done so many and I just don't keep tracking or I don't take pictures. You know that.
Well, I was complaining to you about the lack of insurance, that these people don't have insurance. They're sick. They're coming down with symptoms. Yes. And they were driving me crazy, blowing up my phone. And I called you. I called Rodriguez. Yes. I called Farrah. And I was driving everybody crazy.
NYC Cares is a program that the state started for undocumented immigrants in the city. So I will be posting more information about that. And there are Creole speaking people. There are different languages that can help them through the process in applying for NYC Care.
Absolutely. So those are the same resources that I get from you, whether I steal them from Karen Jocelyn or Elsie. Everybody's been there and everybody knows, like, look, when there's a need, I'm not going to sit there and get front. I'll call whoever I have to call. Yvette Clark, she's tired of me. Like, I have a cell phone number. I'll jump on the council, Congresswoman, I need help. Because whenever there's an election, everyone knows me in this community. I'll gather groups of volunteers to be on the road to ensure that we get y'all in office. Once you get there, don't get comfortable and get pretty with your red bottoms on and everybody's coming next to you, take photo ops. When it's time to go out in the field, trust me, I literally grab people like this. I said, come on, let's go. We gotta do this. So what you did back in the 1990s, that's what you're going to continue to do, just at a higher level. Yes. And you're going to excel at it because it's part of you. It's part of your DNA. It's part of who you are. But girl, come on. We're going to put our big girls' drawers on and we're going to do what we need to do together.
Yes.
Wonderful. Yes. Well, council member, if you want to have a closing word for us, we're going to use the last 5 or 10 minutes or so to go back to Jolene. Nous allons parler avec Jolene sous situation Haïti, parce que Jolene était sous ligne ensemble avec nous. Donc, you get the last word before you
I wanted to ask Jolene a question. I wanted to find out tout le monde qui a déporté à l'Haïti.
Jolene is on mute. Maybe he put his phone away, so I just wanted to...
Let me get him.
Okay.
Yeah, but council member, he's here. He's back.
Bonsoir, Jolene. Comment est?
Jolene, on va attendre des questions?
Non, tu as une question?
Non, council member, il dit saluer ou il dit bonsoir, on va attendre.
Bonne fête. Et nous avons une question pour vous. Nous avons besoin de connaître tout le monde qui a retourné à Haïti en même temps. Et qui côté yo mette placer moun sa yo et puis moun qui quitte Haïti depuis 10 ans, qu'on y a un problème moi ça vient créer, c'est que ou vient créer réfugiés en d'un pays pa yo parce que vient c'est displaced.
Yes.
Quitte Haïti 10 ans, 15 ans, pas gen ka mai côté pour mettre tout d'un coup me tourner, moi non nouveau pays, un pays pas connaît encore, pas on vient conseiller d'habitude pas gen encore. Qui ça que a fait m'tande de office migration qui en Haïti qui dit que a placé moun sa yo, ka font une clarification sur ça pour moi.
Wow.
En quelque sorte, je ne sais pas si vous m'entendez bien, mais question, je ne sais pas si c'est Internet qui a coupé, mais de toute façon, nous essayons de comprendre la question. Alors, je prends un exemple très simple avec vous. Moi, j'ai un fou du Brésil qui était là récemment. Il était venu en campagne pour la grâce sud de d'avoir le côté support. Il quitte Haïti, ça fait 8 ans. Il est venu, franchement, tout le bagage est nouveau pour lui. Comme si dans un doigt qu'on a avant, c'est là la dit, il a dit pas aller, du coup il pas qu'on côté pour le faire, il pas qu'on a rien du tout. Et bien c'est même bagage ça qui arrivé avec migrants ça et pendant la parler là. Oui, des office national migration certes qui était là, même de dit ça tout à l'heure, Haïti pas jamais préparé à rien. Comme si le bagage arrivé sous nous à l'improviste, nous tout improviser tout. Même moun sa c'est pas gon prise en charge qui fait. C'est pas parce que gon côté au aller. C'est pas parce que tu gen kay qui te construit pour si en cas ta gen situation ça arrivé pour l'état te gen temps prévoir. En pile monde nous déjà qu'on a ça qui dit diriger c'est prévoir. Cependant En Haïti, on dirait que c'est le contraire. Si l'État t'est préparé, t'es dit, OK, nous faisons un village pour si tu as gagné telle situation, pour si tu as gagné, par exemple, dans le cas, si tu as gagné migrant qui soit sorti Mexique, États-Unis, qui t'a venu, on t'a dit, OK, village ça, nous préparer le pour eux, nous construire exactement pour ce genre de situation ça. Ou pas ça. D'ailleurs, même en dans pays, il y a un ensemble handicapé que parce que yo te mette sous piste là, sous aéroport piste là, n'importe qui qui te construit. Dans échange pour des bandits avec la police, quand ça au boulet, eh bien handicapé on dans la rue. Bon ça monde qui handicapé oui, yo dans la rue jusqu'à présent. Yo prend tout, yo mette au noti caille tout fermé, c'est pour caille en fait, son l'école nationale dans Pétionville là, yo mette dans ça. Pas qu'un côté pour dormir, pas un côté pour obéir. Sinon là, n'a crié. Garantie nous n'importe monde qui t'a visité en droit ça m'a dit là a crié. Ça veut dire même ça qui passe plus près là, même monde qui est handicapé, donc l'état ici pas capable en charge, pas besoin de ban migrants ça yo. Yo c'est près de 10 000 en tout. Selon chiffre.
Et Timounio parce que me connais m'établi un rapport que rempli Timounio ça avec des passeports brésiliens, Chili, Ecuador yo vini, ça ka privé avec Timoun sa que est-ce que l'état haïtien pas nous yo te contacté pays ça pour dire mais OK, mais nous des citoyens pas ou est-ce que nous ka voyer ou bien ça ka privé Timoun sa yo.
L'état ils était juste dit, m'était le message tout à l'heure, alors on tweet et PM Ariel Henry te fait de dire qu'il y a toute préparation qu'a fait pour recevoir Mounio, cependant c'est le contraire que n'a vivre dans le pays. Mais ça qui crée question posée, moi tout m'ta posé. C'est comme si lorsque moun sa ou vini, moun qui gagne n'importe 10 ans, 12 ans dehors, yo vini non seulement tout bail nouveau pour yo, bon insécurité qui tête chargée, ça veut dire yo capote yo dans bouche lion sans yo parent yo compte, ça pas gagne famille yo du tout. Donc c'est comme si moun yo la ge pour yo. Et nous mettre suivre, c'est moun sa yo bientôt pour attendre qui n'a kidnapping. Qui pral former un groupe de gang. C'est moun sa qui pral bay problème pi devant parce que pas de bon prise en charge qui fait pour yo vraiment. L'État haïtien va ka recevoir 10 000 migrants, même 1000 migrants si yo ta vini l'État haïtien pas ka recevoir yo. Yo pas besoin de près de 10 000. Ça veut dire que nous attendons à tous les mots, à tout ça qui a passé. C'est dommage ça arrive comme ça. Même pas capable une réponse précise pour me dire mais côté yo mais ça a fait.
Et je l'aime quoi gon parti dans peut-être dans réponse là moi au maître étant que président Fuji ba nous qui réaction mon yo qui gens ça est parce que comme moi tantôt nous joignent quelques dans ministre qui dit que bon et bien pile monde qui frappé pour que demander qui j'ai ka faire rentrer dans Fuji qui ça Fuji a fait pour yo. Alors pour une clarification pour nous sur ça.
Bon, voilà, effectivement notre ça nous recevons des deux côtés. Nous recevons des gens qui sont proches, qui sont migrants, qui sont flux migrants, ça veut dire, puisque ils n'ont pas attendu à ça, ils sont en Fiji, ils ont des gens qui sont Chili, Brésil, qui sont Mexique, qui tout fait partie de Mounzao. Parce que, comment la situation est, c'est soit des gens qui sont Chili, qui sont au Brésil, qui ont essayé d'aller aux États-Unis. Il y a quelques qui réussissent à entrer illégalement, mais la majorité c'est ça c'est cas privé là. Donc Mounzao des proches dans Fiji qui te gen moun yo dans équipe ça yo. Donc il dit même moun yo vini kounya qui sa Fiji ka fait, qui ça ka fait, si moun yo pour femme enceinte yo, qui ça ka fait pour vieillard yo, pour toute fille ça yo parce que nous dit nous c'est fondation pour l'émancipation des femmes et des filles. Ça veut dire moun yo toujours attendre bonne réaction pour nous faire. Et nous pas attendre à ça, nous pas préparer à ça. Vous comprenez? Maintenant c'est frapper porte kay amis, parler avec quelqu'un, Dr. Ferrari, Johnny, qui va jamais suspendre de nous, c'est qui ça nous a fait, qui ça nous a porté comme solution, comment nous a aider quelqu'un, louer un petit chambre. Est-ce que nous avons manger pour une semaine ou bien un mois? Situation pas plus compliquée que Jean Nouvel là. Et jusqu'à présent, nous ouvrons porte nous pour n'importe monde qui te ka aider nous, aider l'autre monde ça yo. Parce que nous-mêmes, nous, dans le pays, la situation pas nous tout compliquée. Les membres de situation pas nous tout compliqué. Ou bien près de 100 jeunes filles dans l'organisation et qui ont toute qualité et problème à faire face à elle chaque jour.
L'on dit 100 jeunes filles, il faut dire c'est pour parler de Port-au-Prince seulement, oui, parce que
oui, Port-au-Prince seulement. Oui, et on a dit que il y a un pile migrants qui descendent au Cap tout. If you dis non seulement au Cap, il faut liberté également. Alors, on a Grand Nord là. Mais imaginez pour nous dire un projet pour au Cap, pour Port-au-Prince, on a besoin de support et nous étions toujours ouverts pour n'importe monde qui t'a décidé de nous. Situation est plus compliquée. Et monsieur, il faut un monde souterrain pour ta vivre, ça m'a dit.
Rita, au songe slogan département de Johnny Capri, songe le fait ou même, et il dit Haïti, c'est là pour là.
C'est là pour là.
C'est là pour là.
C'est là pour là. Oui.
Tendez à quoi c'est deux.
Tendez à quoi c'est deux. Et quand ce membre Joseph est content de poser question ça, et son question touche vraiment pile. Et vu du fait qu'ils sont politiciens pour les États-Unis, mais malgré ça, concernés de ce qui a passé dans le pays, qui a passé en dehors de pays où on vit là, à savoir Haïti. Ça veut dire, this is to show the loyalty of sons and daughters of the motherland, of Haiti.
And they're connected. I don't ever want us to think that Haiti and the U.S. is disconnected. Whatever happens in the U.S. affects Haiti.
Absolutely.
In terms of foreign policy, in terms of how we move. So we must always include Haiti in the conversation when we talk about foreign policy, when we talk about migration, immigration policy, and all those things. So that's how come I have to make the connection, because one thing happens intertwined with the other. And I must leave, guys. Bien content de faire connaissance à vous, continuer à faire bon travail que vous faites en Haïti. Okay.
Les sous-drop là tout, je vais les sous-drop là tout comme journaliste.
Oh, all right.
Et on va poster une vidéo aujourd'hui, côté que équipe Brésil là, qui travaille sur une production, quoi lui-même toute une production dans mission que je fais du côté du sud, dans le sud, et que poster pour montrer travail. On est capable de dire une génération qui travaille très dur, très et talentueux, et avec mesdames, c'est les mêmes qui hold the fort pour nous-mêmes en Haïti, c'est les mêmes qui gérer les affaires pour nous avec mesdames, mais c'est un travail qui est du tout facile. Jusqu'à présent, je vais payer 5 compagnies rouges, et c'est volontariat à faire. Il y a une famille, il y a des siblings qui sont comptés, qui sont responsabilités, mais nous voulons dire publiquement que nous apprécions le travail. Et quand ce membre sous qui supporte le leadership pour nous, sont l'autre petite n'a plagué dans l'estomac, comme c'est au cas fouiller zone en Kalalou. Je vais pour bataille là pas pour moi même seulement. Johnny a fait longtemps qu'on a joué. Et you know I'm gonna hold your feet to the fire.
Absolutely.
J'ai l'air dans mon cognac.
Okay, bye.
Okay.
Bye.
It was a pleasure to see you, and good luck with everything.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
I'll see you tonight.
You got it.
Eh bien, Bonalisa, nous espérons que nous bail communauté a une bonne vue de situation, gens que élu était well souterrain, mais espérer que nous puissions bien comprendre et raisonnement qui fait que élu ça a été allé et Del Rio pour garder avec Denaweo pour te comprendre situation, pour te porter et solidarité à immigrants haïtiens qui étaient sous frontière et qui étaient ouais et comment moun sa juste disparaître et me penser que suivi qu'a fait pour yo ka connaît qui côté moun sa yo aller qui sa yo fait avec yo et puis de plus ça que yo ajouté pour nous de travail que devrait pas fait pour préparer et pour recevoir moun en pile là de cap New York. Donc, pour nous assurer nous que nous sommes capables de répondre à besoin, c'était vraiment, et moi-même m'apprendre en pile, c'était vraiment utile. Et m'espérer que nous avons l'autre occasion pour nous parler de travail de plan, mais en particulier pour nous parler de qui gens communauté en lui-même capable de retrouver le travail ça, pour tes solidarité pâle, parce que nous avons dit, mais en pile chay palou, et tout le monde est capoton petit bagay, et petit pachiche. Et donc, n'a porté plus d'informations sur ça, de pas fait pour que la communauté connaisse lui-même qui gens capoté collé avec le travail ça. Donc, je connais dernier mot pour vous, Monalisa, avant de fermer avec quelques minutes de retard, mais on a fini à l'heure.
Bon, juste avant nous bailler dernier mot, Johnny, mais vous salutations à internautes qui étaient en bas live là, nous pas qu'à négliger. Et moi, tout gain lunettes, vous capable peut-être lire quelques commentaires, côté que nous sommes capable de, pendant qu'on fait salutation, nous voulons une grosse salutation spéciale pour Nicole Francis et une femme Jam qui réellement a supporté le travail du là, qui supportait Fuji en pile tout, qui a fait des connexions pour Fuji. Nous avons salué PM Oscar du côté de Port-au-Prince, Shelanda Laguerre qui du côté de Brésil, et Dominique Martin qui est avec nous en bas live là, Johnny qui voulait une belle salutation pour spécifiquement mentionner au même Johnny. Et nous voulons saluer John Laguerre, comme on connaît, qui n'a jamais raté sur ça, quel que soit les
circonstances. On va le finir avec l'infomercial là, bien sûr. On va le finir avec ouais. Et
nous va remarquer Patrick Jody, on va consulter.
Patrick, salue-nous, il était là.
Il était là. Bon, parfait. Eh bien, c'était un plaisir pour nous être capables avec nous. Et dans dimanche après-midi, ça, tout le monde connaît. Et si c'est dimanche, 5 heures, alors le 4 heures toujours dans tête, mais si c'est dimanche après-midi, 5 heures, c'est l'heure du Mojo. It's time to get your Mojo on. Thank you for your faithfulness. Merci pour fidélité nous à Mojo. On behalf of Johnny, myself, and the entire team, Samuel Termitus, notre staff technique là, et je vois Saint-Julien journaliste, on a dit tout le monde, un bon après-midi, à dimanche prochain.
Le Mojo Show vient joindre nous aujourd'hui, grâce à Sipo, Cap Lamandou l'hôtel qui établi dans la ville Jacmel, avec Villa Théodore qui chita dans mi-temps Port-au-Prince dans le quartier Debussy. Si vous Jacmel, au soir au Port-au-Prince pour vacances, au soir pour business, et puis vous voulez descendre dans l'hôtel, côté ou à l'aise, qu'on met Blaise, seul choix c'est Cap Lamandou dans Jacmel, avec Villa Théodore dans Debussy. Vous pouvez contacter directement sur le site web caplamandou.com ou soit villatheodore.com. Les Mojo Show voulait remercier John Laguerre qui est un supporter fidèle show. John Laguerre, c'est un professionnel qui peut répondre à tous les besoins financiers nous, tant qu'assurance santé et assurance la vie. Pas quitter ces les mal arrivés pour nous dire si nous te connaissons. Contactez John Laguerre dans 347 204 58 61. 347 204 58 61.